Channel 4 News is next at 7 o'clock, but that's it from the news at 5:45. From all of us here, a very good evening.
Good evening. The governor of Dartmoor prison today hit back at the critics of his regime. The prison, he says, is not a soft option. And it's not true, he says, there's been a breakdown in relations between staff and prisoners. Also tonight, a big family reunion as the frigate Dawlish returns home after more than 7 months at sea. And would-be muggers beware. The pensioner with all the experience and skill to hit back hard. The governor of Dartmoor prison today hit back at critics who say that his regime is too soft. 40-year-old John May returned from holiday to discover that prison officers had passed a motion of no confidence in the way that he runs the prison. But Mr. May denied that Dartmoor was a soft option, and he refuted claims that there'd been a breakdown in relations between the staff and the prisoners.
John May regards himself as a reformer, a governor putting a more human face on one of Britain's grimmer prisons. But his emphasis on rehabilitation has led to a crisis. Prison officers say that discipline's suffering, there are more escapes, and recently there was a near riot, simply because there aren't enough of them to cope with the extra work created by Mr. May's liberalising measures.
We've expanded our education and vocational training courses. We've introduced a pre-release course, which is actually run very well by members of uniformed staff. And we've been seeking to involve all of the prison officers who work in the prison wings in taking applications from prisoners and processing those applications, which may mean something from ringing the wife to make sure that she's coming up on a visit next week, through to dealing with a real domestic crisis.
There's no reason at all why the inmates shouldn't enjoy a more liberalised routine, providing we get the staff. We mustn't confuse the issue of prison life with outside life. What we're looking after are people who've been convicted, some of them of very, very serious and violent offences. You don't treat them in exactly the same way as you treat people outside. You set people to look after them, and that's why I've got a job. We need a certain number of prison officers on duty to ensure the safety, not only of staff, but of the other inmates.
It was a plan to ensure that all prisoners got evening recreation, which precipitated the crisis. Mr. May was forced to withdraw under the threat of industrial action. Already this year there have been 6 escapes from outside working parties, a big increase which officers say is due to riskier prisoners being allowed out.
Over the last 2 to 3 years, we have had more serious incidents than we've had for many, many years at Dartmoor Prison. And yes, I would say that a certain amount of that, or a certain amount of the increase of those incidents, are in fact due to his insistence on liberalising the regime.
Well, I do believe that I do my bit towards maintaining discipline in the place. And I bring to Dartmoor nearly 20 years' experience in the prison service and in mainly long-term secure prisons. So I'm not really just talking off the top of my head. And I think the approach I've taken is a realistic one that reflects what happens in the rest of the prison service.
The officers are still waiting for Mr. May's response to their vote of no confidence. He says he's not considering resigning, but he is prepared to be flexible.
Government moves to ease overcrowding meant more than 100 prisoners left jails in the southwest today. 51 men at Exeter were affected by the scheme. It means more remission for those serving sentences of a year or less. Releases were staggered through the morning. At Channingswood near Newton Abbot, which has recently been rebuilt, 5 men left today. At Dartmoor, where most are serving longer terms, only 3 were eligible for the scheme. They all left before midday. In Portland, in the far east of the region, 30 were let out of the Youth Custody Centre, and 11 men were released from the Verne. It's a training prison. Not far away at Dorchester, 8 walked out early. It's the same situation there. And at Shepton Mallet in Somerset, 6 people were allowed out. And as the government tries to cope with overcrowding, London remand prisoners are still being held at Crown Hill Police Station in Plymouth. That's been the situation there for more than 2 weeks now. Emergency services in West Cornwall have reacted angrily to what they say was the stupidity of a holidaymaker who sparked off a major rescue operation. The man from Northampton became trapped after he and a friend climbed down cliffs at Land's End to retrieve a cheap plastic football. He was winched to safety by a naval helicopter.
The rugged beauty of Land's End routinely attracts up to 8,000 visitors a day. And since that tragedy in 1985, when 4 schoolchildren climbed down the cliffs and were swept away, the danger could hardly be spelled out more clearly. Large signs tell tourists that there is indeed a 300-foot cliff. But when a plastic ball was kicked over the edge last night, James Kent from Northants took no notice. He and a companion climbed down the cliffs and then got into trouble.
His friend panicked and decided he'd had enough, and he decided to come back. But the tide had moved in a fair bit since then, and his friend had to swim back. He thought he would paddle, and the sea came up to his neck. And he came up, and he had the common sense to come and see us very rapidly and say his friend was trapped down there. We came down on the site here, and though we shouted, we couldn't get any response at all. And we had already phoned the Coast Guard service, but to help them to try and identify exactly what the chappie was about.
So Mr. Kent, trapped just above the rising tide, could easily have been washed away?
He must be the luckiest person in this country. You know, when the helicopter picked him up, the sea was lapping at his feet. That's how near it was.
How do you honestly feel about people who simply ignore your signs?
Well, we are here to welcome thousands upon thousands of visitors. It is an occupational hazard that some people are going to get into trouble. We have tried, with the help of the rescue services, to put notices at the appropriate spot and try and give people advice. At the end of the day, it's up to the people themselves. If they're foolhardy and irresponsible, then they may very well get in trouble.
The Navy helicopter which rescued Mr. Kent had spent 45 minutes in the air, an expensive game of football. And it didn't end there. The Coast Guards had to dispatch a 3-man cliff rescue team to search the area. Again, they were volunteers called away from their work. So should foolhardy climbers be charged a fee?
Well, this is a very emotive point. Because of the cost of it all, I doubt whether anyone could afford to pay it. But I think they should be brought to account. I would love to see them do some, what I would call voluntary service for X number of weeks, either washing the ambulances or polishing the helicopters, but make aware of that very thing yesterday, which was foolhardy. There may have been a climber with a broken leg further along the coast who had to wait that little bit longer before he was made comfortable. And I think this should be brought to account some way or other.
But predictably, this latest incident has provoked more calls for people to be billed for their rescues, especially the foolhardy who ignore all the warnings. At present, the Coast Guard and the Navy offer their services free. It's only the taxpayer who picks up the bill.
Well, let's hope that Mr. James Kent from Northampton is the last person to go down cliffs chasing plastic balls. Julie, news.
Thank you. 150 people were evacuated safely from a Devon pub when fire ripped through the building. The cost of the damage is put at many thousands of pounds.
The blaze started last night in a private room at the Rockstone Hotel in Dawlish. As smoke spread to the bars and ballroom, staff asked the guests to leave through the emergency exits. Residents made their way to safety from the flats, and within seconds the flames had taken hold of the residential section of the building. A minute or so later, the flames were shooting 20 feet into the air, fueled by gas from the mains. Part-time firemen at Dawlish were already at the local station for drill and were on the scene within 4 minutes of the alarm call. They quickly had the blaze under control. Police and fire officials who inspected the building have ruled out arson. It's thought the fire may have been started by an electrical fault.
A man has been killed and his wife and son seriously hurt in a head-on crash in Cornwall. The family in a Ford Sierra were travelling towards Truro on the A39 when their car collided with a 16-tonne truck at Brighton Cross near Mitchell. The road was closed for 3 hours as firemen fought to release the injured from the wreckage. The driver died at the scene. His wife and son are being treated for multiple injuries at Truro City Hospital. The lorry driver was unhurt. There's been a slight rise in the number of unemployed in the southwest. Figures show 81,600 out of work, about 600 down on the last month. Police are waiting to talk to a Plymouth man who was badly beaten up by a gang of youths in Freedom Park at Lipson. 29-year-old Peter Oakton was found several hours later with concussion, broken cheekbones and cuts to his face. Police are calling for witnesses to what they say was an unprovoked assault. A young couple from Cornwall have been injured after a heavy iron bolt was thrown through the window of a high-speed train in Somerset. Police are looking for 4 young vandals.
The couple were travelling on the Glasgow to Penzance train on their way to Perranporth. The train was passing under the Bristol Road at Highbridge when a 6-inch railway sleeper bolt crashed through the window of their compartment, showering them both with glass. The train went on to Taunton, where the couple, Mark Barclay and his girlfriend Elizabeth Whiteside, were taken to Musgrove Park Hospital and released after treatment for facial cuts. They weren't seriously hurt. Police are looking for 4 youths, aged between 11 and 14, thought to come from the Highbridge area, who were seen on the bridge at the time of the incident, about 6:30 last night.
The judge and jury in an important drugs trial at Exeter Crown Court burst into laughter today when one of the defendants suddenly stripped off his trousers. 38-year-old Taylor, who's charged with importing cannabis worth £100,000, paraded through the court in his boxer shorts. The prosecution were trying to prove that Taylor and his co-defendant Salvatore Di Prima could never have become friends in a football team because Taylor had bad knees. The 6'3" defendant immediately dropped his trousers and bared his knees to the court. Closing speeches have begun in the trial, which continues tomorrow. The 83rd Okehampton Agricultural Show drew in the crowds today. Officials reported an increase in the numbers through the turnstiles. The show on the edge of Dartmoor has grown in both importance and scale in the last few years, but organisers are pleased that it still retains its friendly atmosphere. The event moved to the site at Stony Park 6 years ago, and exhibits this year soon spread to fill the extra 2 acres. It was a day out for all the family, with donkeys just one of the many animals on show. For some, it was a chance to step back in time to memories of the show's beginnings 83 years ago. About 200 trade stands fill the field, and the success of this year's event, despite the rain, could lead organisers to consider a 2-day event in the future.
Thank you, Julie. Well, now sport and that big match between Manchester United and the tiny Cornish fishing village of Mousehole. Well, celebrations have been going on all day in the village. Not that they won, they didn't. They in fact lost 6-0. But for the village and the 4,500 people who turned up to watch, who won didn't much matter. More important was simply playing the game.
The style was turned on. Manchester United arrived at Cornwall Park by air. There's never been anything like this in the 65-year-old history of Mousehole Football Club. The Manchester team was made up of seniors and juniors, worth more than £1 million. Everything was done to make the men who've known Wembley feel at home. 4,500 turned up to watch for a club where support is normally gathered in handfuls. From the start, Mousehole came under the fiercest pressure. Again and again, Manchester pressed the attack. The men from Mousehole defended well. And goalie Andy Anco moved through time to shove, kick, smash, handle and grab the ball away from the net. But nothing could withstand such pressure. Within as many minutes, 2 goals. By the second half, the gloom gathered with a sea mist. Mousehole came out fighting their best chance of the match. Goal 5 came from a penalty. In the Cornwall Combination League, Mousehole have a tough reputation. As the sixth goal went in, the big disappointment for the Cornish trawlerman, the tin miner, the bank clerk and the others in the Mousehole team was they hadn't scored.
I'd like to have got a goal. I thought Keith Gilbert was very unlucky with the cross in the second half when he flicked it.
I think your lads basically got the legs run off them towards the end.
Yeah, they did. And we expected that in the last 20 minutes, and the result didn't matter to me at all. I wouldn't have minded if they'd won 17-0. What I was concerned about was to get Manchester United here and get us on the map, and we've done that.
The men of the match, double scorer Clayton Blackmore and the goalie he beat.
We thought it was going to be a little bit easier at the start. Then we could see we were in for a bit of a hard game. The way they were playing, they were getting about us and they played very well.
I think they're known as a hard team.
Yeah, there was a few nasty tackles going in, but that's part of the game.
What's it like? I mean, you're an amateur and you're facing, very professional attacks there.
Certainly the ball comes through a lot quicker. We haven't got as much time or nothing. But very enjoyable. Enjoyed every minute of it.
You learned a lot?
Yeah, a lot. Really enjoyed it. Great experience for everybody really in the whole team and the crowd. They don't often see these players come down. It's good to see them down.
Well done, Mouser. Not a bad result, really. 6-0. The wives and families of serving sailors rarely have an easy time. They're often left to fend for themselves while their menfolk are away at sea for long periods. So you can imagine the excitement amongst the big crowd at Devonport this morning, waiting to welcome home the frigate HMS Daney. She's been away on NATO duties for more than 7 months.
HMS Daney returned to the lifting mist of Devonport after a trip covering 33,500 miles. One of the ship's crew worked out that she's gulped down enough fuel to get an average car to the moon and back 197 times and qualify for 82,500 glasses, which an international petrol company gives away free at its service stations. Daney has had a real potpourri of weather on her travels through the Atlantic, West Indies, the Azores, France and Portugal. She's taken part in 3 major exercises, including one at the Arctic Circle. Able seaman Chris Westhall had other things on his mind, though, as Daney docked. The lady in question was suitably impressed.
He told me I had a surprise come in, and I didn't have a clue what it was. I can't believe it.
How long have you known him for?
For a year now.
And have you seen him very much when he's been out on tour?
I've seen him when I was in Canada working as a nanny. He came around for 2 weeks holiday, and I went up to Cardiff and saw him then, but I haven't seen a lot of him in the past 8 months. No.
Where did you meet him?
Met him at Navy Days last year when I went on the boat.
The gangplank was lowered, and for Claire and all the other families, a long 7.5 months was over.
When did you decide to pop the question?
Sometime last month. Middle of last month, I just thought about it.
And why decide to do it this way?
Most romantic way I knew. Just give her a surprise when we came in.
There's been a few other family happenings while Daney's been away from port. 2 marriages, 3 new little ones, eagerly seeking dad somewhere amongst all those other dads, and at least 3 more junior ratings on the way. Ship's captain Phil Harris was in no doubt about his feelings.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, a great welcome, as you can see from all the crowd, all the families. Well, we nearly got back to Devonport. We stopped into Southampton. That's one of the, I think there's 22 different ports we visited in 13 different countries in the 7.5 months, so we've got around. We did 3 major exercises and lots of work-up periods with at least 8 different nations of the NATO countries.
Now, I understand you're going to be claiming 82,500 glasses off Texaco for all the fuel you've used, is that right?
Well, some wag on board has worked out that if it was Texaco fuel, we would have, 182,000 glasses?
82?
82,000 glasses, good grief. Can you imagine a garage full of 82,000 glasses?
Are you going to claim them, then?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we can. We wouldn't have place to store them.
And Texaco, in fact, just said they'd be happy to honour the Royal Navy's claim, except that the promotion of glasses alone ended 6 weeks ago. Typical. They say better next time. Luck next time.
I wonder whether we get invited to that wedding.
I hope so. It's very romantic, isn't it?
Well, now, after fishing, shooting is one of the fastest growing sports in Britain. It's especially popular here in the southwest. At least for those who shoot, it's popular. Other people who live near the many new firing ranges springing up in the region are less than enthusiastic. Like the villagers of Thorncombe on the border of Somerset and Dorset, they say it's highly dangerous.
Clay pigeon shooting like this is already a feature of life for the people of Thorncombe and Broad Windsor, but now they claim a bigger intrusion is about to occur. Unlike this isolated range near Dorchester, the Spadbarrow Gun Club has its headquarters near several homes. Now, to add to the clay pigeon shooting, the club wants to introduce a rifle range for high-velocity weapons of the calibre used by the army. The villagers say it will be intolerable and dangerous.
I think the best description is to say it'll be like World War III, with the number of shots that can be fired in a week, with the range being used to its maximum. It could be 24,000 shots a week. And we have a number of clippings from papers to show that despite all the assurances we've had from the organisers and even the police, that accidents do happen with, unfortunately, with monotonous frequency.
The villagers claim they've been presented with a fait accompli. Planning permission for the full-bore rifle range was granted in 1984, but they say they weren't consulted. Now the club is planning to implement the plans. The villagers say they're going to call in the local government ombudsman to investigate.
We do feel that we've been extremely badly treated. We weren't consulted. Our parish councils weren't consulted. Someone in their sagacity has arbitrarily decided that 4 days a week, 6 hours a day is acceptable.
But with police and Home Office approval for the scheme, the villagers look unlikely to overturn the planning decision. And the gun club secretary says their fears are groundless.
Accidents will happen in every walk of life, whether you're driving a car or driving a tractor or whatever. I mean, you can, in any sport like parachute jumping, there are accidents. So I think if the range is built to the MOD specifications, which are the latest after all, and the people who are using the range will all be certificate holders and will have been passed by the police to hold guns, and they cannot get those certificates unless they are a member of a bona fide club such as ours, then I don't think there is any worry.
Well, I've only got one question for Laurie Quell. Where's the sun, please?
It's coming. Don't be so impatient. Tomorrow is what they call one day for life, when we're all being asked to go out and take pictures which represent our lifestyle. Well, I can promise you a reasonably good day. That high pressure down there, as you see, which is moving up from the equator, which is, as it should be at this time of the year, of course, should affect most of us tomorrow. It's been a generally dismal day today throughout most of the area. There have been some sunny periods, but generally nothing to write home about. But tomorrow, I think, after a slowish start, we'll find that the sun will break out, and it should be just right for you amateur photographers to get out with your cameras. That's the situation. If we look on the satellite picture, this is Meteosat, you see there. There's the high there, a nice clear patch on the satellite picture. We're going to find that during the course of the next day or so, this cloud is going to move in and affect us, I'm afraid, on Saturday, where we should start with a generally cloudy sort of day. But for the moment, tomorrow, we can expect a rather nice day with cloud, I think, breaking up in most areas. If we look at the satellite from the temperatures reflected from that satellite picture, we've seen that Exeter there, 23 degrees, was at 4 o'clock this afternoon the highest in our area. 23 degrees is not bad, I think you'll agree, at this time of the year. The rest, well, nothing very exciting there, were there? So if we come back to tonight, then we're going to find that already in some of these northern parts and some of these western parts, cloud is breaking up, and we find that we're going to have a generally dry night with clear periods, undoubtedly, and that will move down and give us all, I think throughout the whole area, a clear night. Temperatures around 12 degrees Celsius, and with the possibility in the low-lying areas particularly of mist and fog patches. So if you are driving late at night or early tomorrow morning, please be very careful. So we come to tomorrow, we generally get a picture where all that cloud will have moved through, and we should have a generally fine day. A slow start, perhaps, as I say, the cloud may take a little while to burn off, but generally sunny periods throughout most of the day, throughout most of the area. Temperatures 21 degrees Celsius as a minimum, which is not bad. The wind's staying over there quite light, 2 to 4, and in the westerly direction. So I hope you'll take the advantage to get out and about. So if we look now at the general high tides for the area, and finally the summary. Well, tonight, cloudy at first but clearing later, and tomorrow, a dry day with sunny periods.
Thank goodness for that. Well, finally, any young thug tempted to mug pensioner Jack Hillaby of Somerset had better think twice, because Jack, an old soldier, is now very well qualified to hit back.
This gymnasium in the middle of Taunton is where a senior citizen's secret weapon is being prepared for battle. Anyone with any thoughts about adding retired Major Jack Hillaby to the street crime statistics had better think again, as I found out. Please don't think that I make a habit of doing this, but I am about to attack and rob an old age pensioner. Oh. Okay, point made. And the reason I didn't get away with that attack is that the gentleman I've just attacked, at the age of 67, has become a yellow belt in Taekwondo. Mr. Hillaby, forgive me for asking, but why is a gentleman of your years taking up Taekwondo?
Well, I watched the instructors doing it, particularly John Black, who is a black belt in Taekwondo, and I thought, well, if these youngsters can have a go, why can't I have a go at it? And I had a try. The thought of sitting in an armchair and watching television and getting a beer tummy or something on me doesn't appeal to me at all. I've always been reasonably fit all my life anyway. And this to me is a way of keeping fit and a big interest too. You see so many articles about, you know, frail 67-year-old pensioner mugged by 12-year-old. And my wife says, well, I'm sorry for the 12-year-old who tries to mug you.
But if such a person was foolish enough to attack you, would you do what you just did to me?
Oh, certainly. Certainly I would, yes.
Well, how about you taking that up?
I might.
I mean, you could tackle all those 67-year-old pensioners who keep pestering you,
He's such a
couldn't you?
pushover, isn't he? Don't you see him? Pathetic.
That's it. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, of course, the Friday show, when I hope you'll join us. Till then, from us both, good night.
Good night.
The Russians hope to be the first to explore for oil under a moving glacier. The Dutch would like to be first to develop a paint system that can be used more effectively underwater. The Germans are trying to be first to install solar power for telephones in the Peruvian jungle. And the Americans hope to have the first service station on the M25, the world's longest ring road. So will all these foreign companies get there first? Yet, comrade. Not likely, my old Dutch.
It's for me? Too late, Otto.
No way, Jose. Because once again, Britain's biggest company has got there first. BP. Britain at its best.
It cannot easily be explained. It cannot be seen or heard. It cannot be touched, and yet it can mobilize the elements. It can harness nature and transform darkness at the speed of light. It is the most prolific form of energy known to man, a most efficient and versatile power we can command as our servant. It is electricity, energy for life.
Incredible! If only I brought a video camera.
No problem. I rented one from Vision Hire.
You? Edmund, that's brilliant. And so easy to use, too.
And you can rent it by the day, week, month, anything you like. No problem.
Rent a video camera from Vision Hire from just $9.99 and you need never miss those magic moments ever again. Video camera hire from Vision Hire. No problem.
Gillette Contour Plus.
with Lubrastrip. Contour Plus glides the razor so it feels smoother while you shave and smoother after. The Gillette Contour Plus system. First we made it closer, now we've made it smoother.
One of these famous cat foods is new Catamite. Can Eric, who's not a Catamite fan, tell which?
You're the one that I want. You are the one I want. Ooh, 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 honey. The one that I want. You are the one I want. Ooh, 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 honey.
Well, let's see which one Eric preferred. Oh dear, Arthur's let the cat out of the bag. Catamite is now 100% meat in jelly. Anything else is a poor substitute.
Alpen Tropical is my kind of breakfast because I know what I like when I see, when I...
Alpen with tropical fruit. Altogether a tastier breakfast.
And that also.
In a moment, survival takes us to the Greek islands. Not the sun-worshippers' beaches of the travel brochures, but the inland waterways and haunts of fascinating wildlife. In fact, it's a garden of the gods, they say. After that, it gets a bit noisy.
A shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. Michael Knight, a young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above the law.
That's Knight Rider every Thursday at 7 o'clock on TSW.
Tonight's story is the first of a special two-parter in which Michael, Kit and the team meet Goliath at 7 o'clock. Another confrontation between Simon and Oliver could be just another of their verbal jousts, but Simon has taken up judo in tonight's Never the Twain story, Kung Hu, at 7:30. There's an hour of top comedy and music at 8 o'clock when Des O'Connor reminds us of his best of guests. Then at 9 o'clock, the streets clear for action as McCall the Equalizer emerges from his lair to revenge himself on the men who killed his date. A community of civilized men is the probably ironic title of tonight's case for the Equalizer at 9 o'clock. After the news at 10 and the TSW late news and weather at 10:30, we continue our look at why couples break up. We meet a pair who managed to break in a civilized way at 10:32. And then at 11 o'clock, we meet a good reason why quite a lot of couples have broken up, Connie. She's on the warpath again at 11 o'clock.
Channel 4 News is next at 7 o'clock, but that's all from us, though. Good evening.
Hello and welcome to the Friday show. I do hope you're having a good week, and if you're on holiday, you're having a smashing time. Weather perhaps not been all that marvellous, a bit on the humid side for me, but Laurie will have a comprehensive forecast for us later on, and I hope it's bright, which brings me to dear Ruth. Now, have you had a bright, a sparkling week, Ruth?
Oh, it's been all right, I suppose.
Oh,
but it's going to
right.
be more sparkling tonight, because in fact I'm looking forward to meeting a very special actor. He's one who's had a little bit of a risque reputation in the past, but now he's doing something completely different. In fact, television viewers will have seen him this week in this particular guise.
Get up, or I'll have the skin off your back.
And we'll be continuing John Carter's series about the resorts in the southwest, and this week John moves on to Weymouth to see what the town and the surrounding attractions have on offer.
In all the long history of Weymouth,
The most significant date was probably July the 7th, 1789, because that's the day that bathing in the sea received the stamp of royal approval.
And Winnie's been out and about on the seafront, this time to Torquay to lick an ice cream or two. And that's included in our shopper's guide this week. Ice cream, the natural way.
From the milk parlour to the ice cream parlour. That's all in a day's work later on in Shopper's Guide.
She gets all the nice jobs, that Reenie Wyndham. Of course, we'll have the latest sporting news on the eve of the new soccer season, which I know you're looking forward to, Ken, aren't you?
Yes, I do. I always enjoy the start of the soccer season.
And also some special memories.
Special memories coming up on Sunday. I'll talk about that later. Special memories for all of us, in fact, in the southwest. But first, the rest of today's news with Gillian Miles.
Good evening. Experts from the makers have been inspecting ambulances in Devon after wheel nuts again became loose. 24 vehicles have been taken off the road. Ambulance men had been assured that everything was well after wheel nuts were replaced and tightened on 62 of the older type Bedford vehicles. A 35-mile-an-hour go-slow has been reimposed. Representatives from General Motors have met the chief ambulance officer. This afternoon he met union officials. One says the authority may have to scrap the entire Bedford fleet of 100 ambulances. 30 deprived children from inner London are getting a country holiday thanks to a Somerset vicar and his parishioners. The tiny village of Mark near Highbridge raised £3,000 to give the youngsters a break in the fresh air.
It's the first time many of the children have been to the countryside, let alone slept under canvas. But a band of willing volunteers are ensuring the 10 days will pass happily.
I thought how super it would be to bring some children from London, and the parish and the village itself thought this was a super idea and cooperated a tremendous amount. And so it went from there, really.
And what do you think of the kids that you finally ended up with?
Absolutely dreadful. And I want to take them back tomorrow. But if they're good enough, then we'll keep them for another 10 days.